80% of America is obese.
We're fat. What's it? Trump calls it the fat shot drug.
Yeah.
That's when the fat shot drug.
Just go to the gym.
Amen to that.
Later, Rob.
Good to see you, Carl. All right. Why do they protest and riot? Because it works. Let's check it out. And welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Happy Friday to you. A new Associated Press poll explains why the crazies are fighting so hard in Minneapolis. 61% now disapprove of the president's immigration plans and how the administration is handling this. So what do you make of a poll like that? The manufactured chaos is working. The same tactics used in Trump's first term make the nation seem destabilized. The uninformed voters out there will just vote for less noise. And that's what's happening. That's what that disapproval means. Americans are watching chaos on TV every day. It's uncomfortable for a lot of people to see this in our streets. And of course, with our media, ICE always will be the bad guys, even as they're attacked, spit on, mocked, rammed, nearly run over for trying to enforce federal immigration laws that were created by both political parties in this country. Most don't care about the real truth. They just don't like seeing the messiness. And the messiness is the point. The chaos is the point. They want to destabilize everything because it hurts the president. It hurts whoever's in power. Axios reporting that Trump actually is feeling that pressure. A staffer saying that he wants mass deportations. What he doesn't want is what people are seeing. He doesn't like the way it looks. It looks bad, so he's expressed some discomfort at that. The only reason it looks bad is, again, the manufactured outrage that's been created by the left. Obama did this for 8 years. When nobody resists, you just have deportations, and ICE just operates. But that's not the case now, is it? You got people fighting them in the streets every day, just like with George Floyd, all to destabilize the country. Our friend Joy Reid doesn't have her job anymore, but she actually has a point on this issue, even though the way that she made it was so ridiculously obnoxious and racist. Take a listen.
White people want to have privilege and they want to have non-white people get hurt, but they don't want to have to watch it. They don't want to have their souls implicated in it. And so because they're now watching their Gardner, right, they don't want to watch John Lewis get beat. They just want him to get beat without them having to see it and having to be accountable for it.
Yes, he tried to make it sound as bad as possible. What it really is people want to live in an orderly society. They want a border, but they don't enjoy watching the messiness of it. This was the brilliance of the radical left opening our borders for 4 years, right? And dumping 15 million people into our country. They knew how hard it would be to clean a mess up like that. It's a hell of a lot easier to just let everybody stay, right? Especially with the media attached to hundreds of professional agitators that are creating this havoc every single day. The media can't wait to get in there and exploit all of it and talk about it nonstop. It's the way it is. Trump saying today he's still considering at this point invoking the Insurrection Act on all of this. Take a listen.
It's been used a lot. And if I needed it, I'd use it. I don't think there's any reason right now to use it. But if I needed it, I'd use it. It's very powerful.
Yeah, it could end all of this really fast. But the Insurrection Act comes with its own liabilities. That move would be fully weaponized by the left in the midterms. The truth is, it's much easier to destroy a country than to maintain and preserve it. We're learning that the hard way right now. Americans need to understand all of this is a manipulation by people that want to destroy your country. All the sob stories, the crying politicians, the arrests, Renee Good even, all the product of a campaign to convince Americans it's no longer virtuous to have immigration laws. And it's kind of working. And isn't that terrifying? Americans need to remember how sinister the plan is. The left knows no borders will destroy the country. They want it anyways. It is their best chance at getting full control and ending capitalism. But Democrats weren't always an existential threat to our country. They used to be capitalists themselves. And we both kind of fought over the best way to make this country more prosperous. It's not like that anymore. Now they're the enemy. What they want is the decimation of everything that we know as a country. 10 years ago, even the most left-wing Democrat sounded just like Donald Trump on immigration. Take a listen to Bernie Sanders in 2015.
Open borders.
Foreign aid. Open borders.
That's a Koch brothers proposal. The idea, of course, I mean, that's a right-wing proposal which says essentially there is no United States.
But it would make a
excuse
lot
me,
of the global poor richer, wouldn't it?
and it'd make everybody in America poor. Then you're doing away with the concept of a nation state. And I don't think there's any country in the world which believes in that.
There isn't any country in the world that believes in doing away with the concept of a nation state with borders, secure, sovereign. Bernie Sanders, 10 years ago. 5 years after that, Joe Biden and Democrats did away with America as a nation state. The wealthiest first world country had no borders for 4 years. What we need to figure out is, when did the Democrat Party abandon the American people? What was the catalyst? When did they realize their party was better off selling out their constituents, selling their country down the river, rather than protecting it and making it more prosperous for Americans? Now, speaking to what Sanders said in that soundbite, the Republican Party did used to allow Mexicans and Central Americans to come into our country for mostly seasonal labor to keep costs down for massive corporations, and that's not something to be proud of. It certainly isn't. But that's the way it worked for a very long time. They came in, they did the work that we needed. It was hard to get that kind of labor. It was expensive. It made things cheaper in the country. Republicans, Koch brothers, everything you just said, that was all true. But today's brand of open borders, what they did under the Biden regime is so much more sinister than that. It was purely a power play. It was voter replacement, the replacement of you as a voter. What you need, what you want is replaced. When Democrats moved towards socialism, which is where they are now, when they realized they wanted to expand the government to take over the private sector, suddenly importing tens of millions of uneducated, public charge migrants became a brilliant idea. Destabilization. Take a listen to Minneapolis' Mayor Jacob Frey ask Americans today to imagine being invaded by thousands of people who don't share the values that we hold dear. Take a listen to this soundbite.
Imagine if that city or that town was suddenly invaded by thousands of federal agents that do not share the values that you hold dear. Imagine if your daily routines were disrupted.
Imagine thousands of people that don't hold your values coming into your town, says Jacob Frey, who dances like an idiot every time he gets in front of a huge Somalian crowd. I wish that was satire. Yes, he's that bad at politics. They want to dump the entire third world into your country. That's the plan. They started the process 5 years ago, and they're fighting like hell to prevent Trump from reversing all the hard work that they did. And it's working. The fight, the chaos, everything you're seeing on television every day is working. It's turning people against the plan to remove 15 million intruders in your country. It's working because people don't like to see the messiness. They don't want to see all this. That was the brilliance of opening the borders. How are you ever going to get everybody out? How are you going to close them up and push everyone out? It's also a lot of help from the media to do this as well. Here's CNN's Wolf Blitzer scolding DHS, saying that the agency's claims about Renee Good are totally inappropriate.
Called this 37-year-old mother of three who was driving that car a domestic terrorist. That really was outrageous.
We said it was an act of domestic terrorism. In no way is that outrageous. What we saw on the ground there, she had been stalking and harassing law enforcement throughout the morning, and then she went on to use her car as a deadly weapon.
She was driving by after dropping off her little 6-year-old boy
That's
at
just
school.
simply not true. I have the facts on the ground blocking in our law enforcement. That is a federal crime. Our officer was in front of her. She gunned the vehicle.
Wolf Blitzer said she just stopped by after dropping off her little boy at school. By the way, the little boy was one of her 3 children. The other 2 she no longer had custody of. Food for thought. What are the facts on this? Well, ICE reported that Renee Good and her new girlfriend were stalking them for hours that day, attempting to stop them from making arrests and doing their job, which is fully a crime. ICE described Renee Good and her girlfriend as the ringleaders of a larger crowd. The New York Post reported that Renee Good's friends and fellow protesters described her as an anti-ICE warrior. Somehow, Wolf Blitzer missed all of that last week. And thinks that Renee Good was just trying to pull a U-turn to go get some ice cream when she was just shot and killed in cold blood by an ICE agent. News just as fake as the politicians that watch CNN. Here's Ilhan Omar, who's looked the other way for years now as her buddies stole billions of dollars from all of us. Now Ilhan is very worried about how much we're spending to deport the people, the 15 million people that she and Joe Biden let into our country.
$175 billion that could have been provided for so many of our vulnerable communities now being utilized to create detention cells for Americans by ICE and Border Patrol. By shooting an American citizen, a mother, in the face, not once, but twice, but 3 times.
A congresswoman in the United States. Go figure. All right, Greg Bovino is the Chief Border Patrol agent, and he's on the ground in Minneapolis and joins us tonight. And, sir, it's good to have you back on. I want to get to some breaking news here. CBS is reporting the DOJ is investigating Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis' Mayor Jacob Frey for conspiracy to impede federal immigration agents. According to the Washington Post, subpoenas have now been issued. Wanted to get your reaction to that to start.
Rob, happy Friday, and it's good to be here with you. Anytime there's a conspiracy to occlude federal law enforcement from conducting its lawful law enforcement mission, in this case, our Title VIII immigration mission here in Minneapolis and Minnesota, there's a problem there. So if subpoenas have been issued, and I've not looked at the case nor the subpoenas yet, but if those subpoenas have been issued, fantastic job, because we all know when Mayor Frey and others get on TV and in the media and call for their own police department to fight federal law enforcement and Border Patrol, we've got a problem. That's definitely occluding and a conspiracy type situation to make it very difficult and downright dangerous to do our jobs.
You have the leaders of a state calling federal law enforcement a threat to the people of the state, vilifying them to the absolute max, ginning up so much aggression and ire and angst toward federal officers, and then it turns to violence on the streets like we've seen, I think, every night this week, every day this week. At what point does this become an insurrection?
Sure. Well, the angst that you mentioned, there is angst out there, Rob, and we see that out on the streets. It was just a few hours after that mayor had made those very caustic statements towards federal law enforcement that an individual showed up at one of the riots with a loaded handgun, a loaded high-caliber handgun capable of penetrating many of our bulletproof vests. So absolutely that is having an effect. Now, as far as insurrection, I know that President Trump and Secretary Noem, they're laser focused on what's happening here in Minnesota and here in this city. And they receive updates, briefs, intelligence reports from commanders like me on the ground, and that gives them a very, very good picture of what's happening so they can make any decisions that they need to make.
I just based off what I've seen so far, I'd say there's plenty of evidence that that there's been some kind of criminal act committed by the leaders of that state. And I'm not talking about the fraud, by the way. I think that's a completely different case. But I think that what we've seen the last couple of weeks is the desperation to find some way to change the topic away from that has been to let's just vilify federal law enforcement and send out our people, which, I mean, these are the farthest left, craziest people we can find. Let's gin them up and get them out there fighting ICE in the streets because it's great cover for a fraud story that's decimating our political careers. Do you think, is there anybody in that state of Minnesota that you think deserves to be charged with a crime based on the behavior that you've seen so far?
Rob, I think anyone that does that engages in a conspiracy. Now, we're talking a conspiracy to commit acts or encourage acts of violence against law enforcement. Any person should be charged. And it's that vilification that you mentioned that's very important. Something I'd like for you and the viewers to know is that when they start that, sometimes that means we're right over where we need to be doing what we need to do, because that means we are being very effective removing those criminals and those criminal aliens and those bad people and bad things from the streets. So sometimes that's that last act of desperation, and it lets us know that sometimes we're over the target.
Yeah, that's certainly the case, isn't it? The Chief of the Border Patrol, Greg Bovino. Sir, good to see you. Stay safe out there.
Thank you, Rob.
All right. Kari Lake, Katie Zacharia joining us now. Ladies, good to see you on a Friday night. Kari, I'm going to start with that breaking news. CBS reporting DOJ investigating Walz and Fry conspiracy to impede federal immigration agents. Washington Post says subpoenas have been issued. How deserved is this in your estimation?
I think it's pretty obvious it's well deserved. We've seen the, Nick Shirley video where he lays out a fraction of what's been happening in Minnesota. This has been happening for decades, and I'm not going to be satisfied until I see people dragged out of their home at 2 a.m. in their underwear. Actually, I don't think I want to see Tim Walz in his underwear, but I want to see some people dragged out in handcuffs. And these are crimes that deserve it. I heard some criticism today of Minnesota nice, and this is kind of the reputation the folks in the Midwest, Minnesota, Iowa nice. You've probably heard that. I used to live in Minnesota in the late 80s. This is before they, flooded the zone with hundreds of thousands of refugees from Somalia. And yes, the people of Minnesota are kind-hearted. I don't want to see people have to lose that beautiful American spirit, but they shouldn't be abused by their elected officials, some of whom probably weren't really elected after all. And until we see people locked up for these kind of fraud crimes and corruption crimes, it's going to continue. And I pray for the people of Minnesota that they get some justice.
Katie, your thoughts on subpoenas for Walz and Fry and what we've seen this week?
Absolutely. I agree completely with Kari Lake. There's fundamental crimes that these people have committed, these leaders of this state and that county. Look, I also like President Trump's idea about the Insurrection Act. It suspends what's called the Pase Comitatus Act, which is essentially that you can't deploy military. And the Supreme Court ruled against him on the Donald Trump v. Illinois, and to not have the National Guard support local police and then have them support ICE as well, Rob. So if you aren't bringing subpoenas and charges against them, President Trump is well within his authority because he has to protect those ICE agents. Had the National Guard been able to provide extra support and he had this full permission to use this force, we wouldn't have this civilian interaction because they would have backup. But now they're really forced to be on their own without the support of local law enforcement. So President Trump, I know he's considering the midterm elections, but I also think way more people are in favor of these deportations than like the CNN polls suggest.
Interesting stuff. But what a week it's been. See what the weekend brings. Ladies, good to see you both. Kari Lake, Katie Zacharia. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Clintons think they're too big to jail, blowing off an Epstein-related congressional subpoena. Peter Navarro has some thoughts on that next.
Why are so many dogs dying before their time? In my experience, great health starts with great food. That's why I created Badlands Ranch Superfood Complete. It contains powerful canine superfoods that directly support your dog's digestion, skin and coat, mobility, and so much more. And it's air dried. That means cooked low and slow, no high heat. We have thousands of 5-star reviews. And for a limited time, get up to 50% off with our special TV offer. Go to badlandsranch.com/TV. That's badlandsranch.com/TV.
When curiosity strikes about the everyday lives of your family, we're here with answers only your ancestors can provide. See their stories at Ancestry.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
Jeffrey Epstein to the White House 17 times when he was president. And post-presidency, Bill Clinton flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane 27 times.
Yeah.
They knew each other very well, and we just have some questions.
Talking about Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein there, House Oversight Chairman James Comer earlier this week responding to Bill Clinton, who ignored a subpoena to testify in his committee's Epstein files probe. Hillary ignored her subpoena the very next day. The Clintons think that they're too big. Nobody can touch them. It's weird that Democrats are not upset, by the way, over the Clintons ignoring all of this as much as they talk about the Epstein files and suddenly wanting all of this transparency on it after 4 years of completely ignoring this when Joe Biden was in the White House. Bill and Hillary think they are too big to jail. They sent a nasty letter to James Comer as a response, saying, "We've tried to give you the little information we have. We've done so because Mr. Epstein's crimes were horrific. Little information. You guys were like besties, according to the photos we have." The Clintons calling the troves of pictures with Bill hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein back in the day and young ladies whose faces had to be completely blacked out irrelevant. Decades-old photos that you hope will embarrass us. Irrelevant. Ignoring a subpoena actually is a crime. Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro both know that. Both prosecuted by Biden's DOJ, jailed for 4 months, and they didn't even defy a real subpoena. They defied a fake subpoena from a fake committee, the fake J6 committee that was purely one-sided. Here's a picture of myself and Peter. That's his first day out of jail after 4 months. That's the RNC in Wisconsin, and Peter Navarro joins us tonight. What's your message to the Clintons, Peter? After you did 4 months for this, what do you say to them?
Rob, this is just one more marker of this dual system of injustice we have. And what's remarkable to me, the Clintons are two people. Let's think about like J6 in Minneapolis right now, right? 1,100 people went to prison for the riots on Capitol Hill. Certainly don't condone them, but if you compare what happened on Capitol Hill for a few hours with the just mass attacks on our ICE agents, it's not even close. And we let them get away with that, Rob. So I've said a lot that if we don't hold people accountable, they'll keep doing it again. And the Walz and Fry investigation is really heartening. Yeah. But I would like to see more people who were associated with putting me and Steve in prison and trying to put Donald Trump in prison for 700 years. I'd like to see a lot more of them under investigation and under indictment and even in court by now. We're going on a year into the administration. So
do you think there's any spine at the DOJ to go after the Clintons for defying the subpoena?
I think that starts with what the Congress is going to do, and yeah, the Congress, it's like one of the things that really I found ironic and troublesome from the Hill. We had a top leader, there's a big article about some top leader on the Republican leadership telling Trump to stop doing all that populist crap, expletive deleted. And it's like they're so out of touch at some level, some of these guys. It's like the memo to the Hill, it's like Trump Republicanism is what got every one of those guys elected in control of both the House and the Senate. And populism, I mean, Rob, if we lose the November 2026 election, it'll be more than Steve Bannon and I are trying to be put in prison. It's going to be a carnage. So that populist stuff, let's think about it, Rob. You and I usually talk economics, and that's what I'm really comfortable with. Yeah. Donald Trump in 1 year, it's going on 1 year now, has fundamentally restructured the entire international trading system. He's going to have the best year in economics in 2026 you've ever imagined because of what he's doing. And he's fundamentally restructured national security in terms of populist nationalism, America first, protect America. And the thing that the Republican guy who talked about populism hit on was 10% cap on interest rates. I mean, who as a candidate for Congress is going to go out and support 30% interest rates for the credit card companies? All that is about is corporate contributions from big credit and big pharma and big oil and all of that. And Donald Trump is fearless. Yeah. He's going after those folks on behalf of the American people. It's no tax on tips, populism. No tax on overtime, populism. Ban on large hedge funds buying single-family homes so that we can have a decent home for people. That's populism. And 10% cap on credit cards. Populism is what America used to be about and what Donald Trump is making it about again. And everything he's doing, Rob, I mean, if you look at everything he's doing for 2026, we're going to have the fastest economic growth we've had in a long time without inducing inflation. We're going to return to rising real wages. There's a productivity boom going on as we speak. The trade deficit is down already to 2009 levels, and that helps get the factories and jobs back. And we are hitting on all cylinders because Donald Trump is a populist. Memo to Congress. So if you don't want to support Donald Trump's policies, get the hell out and let somebody else run who will give us a better chance of holding that majority. I don't want to hear that kind of crap, sir. Yeah. Whoever said it.
I like it.
Get out of here. Anyway,
like Peter,
got that off my chest, brother.
Yeah, it's good. I wanted to let you talk, and you talked. Peter Navarro, good to see you. And, I'm hoping that a lot of this good news, this economic good news, can boost for the midterms. That's the big hope. Good to see you, sir. Thank you.
All right, brother. You take care.
All right. Breaking down Trump's great health care plan next with senior White House advisor Calley Means.
I lost 110 pounds. You couldn't tell it all because of my excess skin. Sono Bello changed that in one visit.
Introducing the new Lift EX, the just one visit total body transformation everyone is talking about.
I am super happy with my results.
I decided to give Sono Bello a try. Look at me, I have a silhouette. You can see my waist.
Lift EX is Sono Bello's breakthrough 360-degree body lift alternative. Our body contouring experts sculpt, tighten, and lift your stomach, waist, thighs, and backside, all in just one visit with less downtime.
Sono Bello targeted the areas diet exercise could not do. I found me again.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 five-star reviews, and Lift EX is exclusively available at Sono Bello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist. Book your free, personalized consultation today. Easy monthly plans make your best body more affordable than ever.
This year is my year thanks to Sono Bello.
Call Sono Bello for your free consultation today.
The Wall Street Journal said silver could be the trade of a decade.
Eric Sprott said $250 to $500 an ounce is entirely possible.
Gold recently surpassed its inflation-adjusted all-time high. Silver's inflation-adjusted all-time high is $209 an ounce.
And silver went up 1,300% from 1974 to 1980. Silver's got a lot of room to run.
Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 1-800-778-4156.
Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer nationwide. The only firm nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner. Home of the No Fee for Life IRA. See how easy it is to protect your IRA with physical gold and silver.
Call now. 1-800-778-4156.
Don't kibble your dog.
Oh, hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, Matt.
But what's wrong with this? It's premium stuff.
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means it's ultra-processed at extremely high temperatures that destroy the nutrients in the food. But at Dr. Marty, we gently freeze-dried premium meats, fruit, and vegetables, locking in their nutrients.
Never kibbled.
You got it, kid, and they're gonna love it.
I'm an assistant principal at an intermediate school and a former softball and basketball coach. I'm also the father of 2 daughters. Keeping my students and children happy and safe is my top priority. But too many kids today are struggling, from stuff at home to falling behind in school and the overuse of devices. There are many factors contributing to the youth mental health challenge, and they should all be taken into account. We need comprehensive solutions that support parents and kids.
Science didn't stop at diet and exercise. Why would you? Super Beats by Human delivers blood pressure support with clinically researched ingredients. Because cardiovascular health is everything health. Available at your local Costco.
We increased funding for rural health care by an unprecedented, record-setting $50 billion over 5 years, which will benefit Americans in all 50 states. These funds will go to empowering rural hospitals, strengthening their workforce, modernizing facilities and technology, and ensuring that rural Americans get world-class health care in their own community, right smack in their own community, like they've never had it before.
All right, President really going after a lot of the complaints about health care in this country. The rural health transformation at the White House event earlier. $50 billion invested over 5 years into transforming rural health access. Democrats try to talk about this all the time as if they have some kind of a plan. An additional $10 billion each year from 2026 through 2030 as well. It comes on the back of Trump's plan to lower health care costs all around and deliver money directly to the people rather than to insurance companies. This is the beginning of the big health care reveal that we've waited for a long time from Republicans. Take a listen.
We're calling it the Great Health Care Plan. You know, we had to come up with a name, and everybody wanted to say, oh, well, can we put something about lowering costs, because we're lowering costs very substantially. So we're saying the cost reduction plan that gives you good health care. And I said, it's too long. It's not going to sell. So we have a very glamorous name. It's called the Great Health Care Plan, not the Unaffordable Care Act. I don't like that name.
Okay. Calley Means is a senior White House advisor and joins us now to help us break all this down. Calley, good to see you. Healthcare is really complicated, right? And I mean, it's hard for people to grasp insurance, medical costs, government plans, everything like that. Try to explain to us kind of the broad strokes, simply what the plan is, what the president is trying to do here.
Well, the president has broken the plan down very clearly. And the problem, Rob, is that in the United States per capita, we spend 3 times more than countries in Europe, 3 times more, and we have worse outcomes. The Democrats look at this, and their plan is to give more money to insurance companies, put more money into this existing system that is clearly broken. And President Trump has laid a decisive plan down, and it's 4 pillars. It's going to lower drug prices, it's going to lower insurance premiums, it's going to hold insurance companies accountable, and it's going to increase transparency for Americans. How do you do this? You give Americans their money and you have them become advocates and CEOs of their own health. It will be a revolution in personalized medicine and having the patient drive those decisions. And crucially, the plan demands transparency. We have no idea what healthcare costs. You arm patients with their money and you give them transparency and you let them make the best decisions for themselves with their doctor. Every healthcare economist in America agrees that this plan would lower premiums, lower costs. The Democrats are nowhere to be found. They were nowhere to be found on that rural health transformation fund, the most significant investment in history in rural health, not one Democratic vote.
So we dumped all of this.
We hope they join on, but
yeah. And that tracks, right? Because they have such toxic ideas on just about everything. But so we've dumped all this money into healthcare for all these years. Healthcare has gotten worse. You're saying that the money has been siphoned off by insurance companies, and this plan is going to stop that and funnel that money back to between people and healthcare providers so that they can get what they need. Insurance is no longer going to be this third wheel that's taking a lot of the cash.
Exactly. This is the first plan from a president in modern American history that's taking the insurance company prices on, that's taking the pharmaceutical prices on. Since Obamacare was passed, insurance premiums, healthcare costs have been the largest source of U.S. inflation. Obamacare was an absolute Christmas present to the insurance companies, and premiums have absolutely skyrocketed. They've more than doubled since Obamacare was passed, and we've gotten sicker. It's just basic market economics. We're giving patients control of their own money, we're giving them transparency, and we're letting them make their own decision. Right now, we're just funneled into this treadmill. And this is the first plan in modern history that's going to end it. It's very, very important, combined with making America healthy again, getting to the root cause. That's the plan to turn this around, Rob. It's the plan to lower costs and get us healthier.
Get us healthier, and then we won't need as much medical care, and then we're going to make that care that you do need cheaper, and we're going to save a tremendous amount of money. Did I see somewhere that they want to have that medical providers, hospitals are going to just list out how much you're going to force that they list out everything, or you're trying to get them to, like, a broken leg costs this much, whatever the hell it is you need, that you're going to have a price there? Is that part of the plan?
What a radical concept. What a radical. Transparency is the fourth pillar of the plan. It's vital. And that's a vital part of the plan. We're doing as much as we possibly can administratively at HHS, and that's absolutely what we're calling on Congress to do.
It's amazing. You excited for this? I mean, it sounds like, because for a long time, Republicans had no idea what to do with this. You know, it's been years.
Rob, we are ecstatic at the White House. I mean, this year has started with such momentum. We've talked about the dietary guidelines. We're getting to the root cause. We're actually saying to eat real food. That's going to keep people out of hospitals. And for the first time in American history, a president has put a mantle on the ground, and we're going to take on the insurance premiums and the drug costs that are absolutely out of control. We are 75% of worldwide pharmaceutical profits we generate in the United States with 4% of the world's population. We are getting ripped off. We're getting ripped off by insurance companies. It's not working. This plan takes it on.
It's amazing stuff. Calley Means, good to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Cover story on Melania Trump is this month's edition of Newsmax magazine. This month we tell the real story of the First Lady, her fight for foster kids, disadvantaged kids, even missing children in Ukraine. We also going to show the role that she plays in advising her husband as well. Check out Newsmax magazine this month. There it is right there on the screen. The left reveals itself again, deathly quiet on the atrocities committed in Iran.
Mike Hammond here, founder of Signal Relief. Meet Dr. Beth Dupree, breast cancer surgeon for over 35 years.
In my surgical career, I have treated thousands of patients, and finding effective pain relief has always been a priority. Believe me, I was skeptical, but Signal Relief caught my attention because it actually works. Clinical trials show over 85% of participants felt relief within 72 hours, with nearly half noticing a significant difference in just 15 minutes. Just place it near or above wherever you have the pain, whether it's your back, your shoulder, your neck, or your knee. Signal Relief Patch brings proven relief. I recommend it to my patients, family, and friends, and I get to witness and experience their pain relief firsthand, and that brings a smile to my face.
Join the hundreds of thousands who have experienced relief with the Signal Relief Patch, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. Trust Dr. Dupree and me. The patch works.
My heart has experienced life-changing wins, losses, and countless miles. To keep living at my speed, I trust Cunol CoQ10. CoQ10 is the #1 cardiologist-recommended supplement for heart health. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Not gonna happen.
That's it. I'm calling Kohler about their walk-in bath.
My name is Ken. How may I help you?
Hi, I'm calling about Kohler's walk-in bath.
Excellent.
Happy to help. Huh? Hold one moment, please. The Kohler walk-in bath features an extra wide opening and a low step-in at 3 inches, which is lower than other walk-in baths on the market. The bath fills and drains quickly, while the heated backrest soothes your back, neck, and shoulders. Kohler is an expert in bathing, so you can count on a deep soaking experience.
Are you seeing this?
The Kohler walk-in bath comes with fully adjustable hydrotherapy jets and our exclusive bubble massage. Everything is installed in as little as a day by a Kohler certified installer. And it's made by Kohler, America's leading plumbing brand.
We need this bath.
Yes. Yes, you do.
Call 800-895-7154
to receive $1,000 off your Kohler walk-in bath. And take advantage of no payments until 2027.
If you have wet AMD or DME, you never want to lose sight of the things you love. And your condition doesn't have to steal the moment. Long-lasting EYLEA HD delivers powerful vision improvements that can save your vision for the future. EYLEA HD is the only treatment for wet AMD and DME that helped at least 8 out of 10 people go up to 4 months between injections after 3 initial monthly treatments. Don't take EYLEA HD if you have an eye infection, eye pain, redness, or are allergic to it. Eye injections like EYLEA HD may cause eye infection, separation of the retina, rare but severe swelling of blood vessels in the eye, or increased eye pressure. There is an uncommon risk of heart attack or stroke. There's still so much to see. Ask about next generation EYLEA HD, a treatment retina specialists trust.
Welcome back. A beautiful Dutch far-right activist and influencer blacklisted from visiting the UK after blasting Prime Minister Keir Starmer over the relentless admission of Islamic refugees that's fueling the collapse of Europe. Eva Vlardingerbroek sharing an image online what appeared to be a message from the British government revoking her electronic travel authorization, saying your presence in the UK is not considered to be conducive to the public good, and she cannot appeal that. Dr. Michael Savage has also been banned from visiting the UK and joins us now. So you call out the decimation of the culture of the country, and they don't let you even come in and visit. But they'll go to the lengths of the earth to protect these Pakistani, whatever they are, Islamic child rapists in their country. They won't deport them. They'll leave them there. But Eva can't come.
Well, there's no England anymore. The Kinks did that song 20 years ago. You have suicide being committed in England and the NATO countries, and half of America is committing suicide. Why are they not protesting the killing of people in Persia? I call it Persia because Iran is a rather new name. You know that better than I do. And the Persian people deserve better than what they're getting in the world. There's no coverage of this in the American media. But the Dutch influencer is very interesting. Of course they don't want her. She's blonde. She's beautiful. She's in favor of borders, language, and culture. How can you have that? Wouldn't it be better to have someone who's hateful of your country and wants to kill the king or the queen? That's what they're inviting in by the tens of thousands. So she's going to be denied the wonderful cuisine of England and the great dental care that she was probably going for. And she's going to have to try to get that in Holland, unfortunately for her. We'll see where that goes. It's a laughing matter only on one level, but it's not a laughing matter on another. It's watching a great nation, which I've always admired, including the British people, dying in front of our eyes.
You know, they say that no empire lasts too long, right? And you're seeing, we're watching. I mean, we're a little behind Europe, right? I mean, and we're kind of seeing, I think, a look at our future. We're watching Europe devolve and self-destruct in real time. I mean, we're all going to witness this, and it's happening really quickly.
I'm looking at your screen, and we're seeing the left-wing vermin rioting day and night, being paid protesters. You know what they look like to me? I'm a student of epidemiology, immunology, whichever way you want to look at it. These are like renegade cancer cells raging through our body politic, committing as much cancer and spreading it as fast as they can in that city. And if they are not stopped, this cancer will spread around this country. They have to be stopped, Rob. I know where this goes. The problem is that's exactly what they want.
Yes.
They want a more strenuous, forceful, militaristic crackdown.
They want another protester to die.
They want more Rene goods so they can have more Animal Farm-like behavior. These people are built for one thing only, which is tearing down, not building up. It's a very difficult problem for Trump to handle right now because we're losing the narrative, and they know it. Just as you said at the beginning of your show, Rob, they are winning in this narrative. And that's the problem. How do you do it? You crack down more of them have their heads cracked. What's going to happen? But, you know, I don't hear this being announced in the news. Eisenhower called out the military. There are other presidents who've called out the military during insurrections in this country. Maybe the times have changed. Maybe they haven't changed. But something has to be done to stop these left-wing fanatics before it is too late and it spreads like the cancer that it is.
I agree with you there. I think that is what they want. I think they'd love for him to invoke the Insurrection Act because then that'll be their midterms. That's what they're going to vote on. So we have a fascist who's suppressing, free speech violently, using the military in our streets. I mean, that's going to be their campaign ad, and that will work because I do think that so many voters, just like they did in 2020, it's too much freaking noise, and they don't want the noise. And they think the noise is Trump, so let's just get rid of the noise. Biden's quiet, let's just put him in.
Yeah, but I remember the Vietnam War. The very same thing went on during the Vietnam War where the left was out of control like the maniacs that they are, and they started doing the same thing, rioting and burning and this and that. I remember people that I knew who were very moderate people who they said, I don't like the left any more than I like the war.
Yeah.
And I wish they would stop it because they're worse than the war by what they're doing in the streets by committing basically war on our streets.
Yeah.
So I don't know that this is necessarily going to turn against the Republicans in the midterms. If they keep it up and they get out of control, I think that they could turn the whole country against them, just as they did during the Floyd riots. And if they want to burn the city down, that would be a horrible thing. You know, you raise the issue of this guy, Frey, and the governor, Walz. When this started in, I said they should be pulled in for aiding and abetting on my Twitter feed, and soon thereafter they were. And I see the Trump administration, I'm sure they didn't read my Twitter feed, they are aiding and abetting these crimes, and they can be tried. And that's why Fry all of a sudden became Mr. Peacemaker yesterday. Remember? Mayor Fry said, I want peace, because he knows he's going to be called on the carpet. He may go to jail.
He knows exactly what he's doing, and they all do. I gotta leave it there, but those are great points. Dr. Michael Savage, good to see you.
Thanks for having me. Not great times in America. Thanks, Rob.
Good. Yeah, I know. Well, on the world stage, there is some news. Trump feared and respected after the capture of Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro. That is for certain. Not too many countries want to mess with the United States right now. Dick Morris, advisor to the president, joins us now. Dick, that mission was so beautifully put together. It was so impressive. We're so intimidating now, our Department of Defense is, Department of War, I should say. Talk about that.
Well, I think that's apparent. I think the thing that I want to focus on tonight is what's not happening. There's a maturity and a judgment in President Trump that he had not been credited for before. He did not declare a violation of the Immigration Act in Minnesota. He did not declare a state of emergency. He has not proceeded with the bombing of Iran, despite their massacres. And I think that you're looking at a president who has proven his point, made the world understand how strong he is and how tough he is, but really is not going to be incendiary. And I think that that's kind of new in Trump. I think that we're going to see in Donald Trump a real judgment about when he unleashes the fury of the gods and when he does not. And I think it's very significant that we're not at war with Iran right now, because he didn't think we could win that. And he thought we could win in Venezuela, and we did. I think that judgment that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick before I let you go, Gen Z, millennials, overwhelmingly independent in politics. What does that mean for future elections as these young people just start voting?
Well, they don't like either political party, and that really is a knock on the Democrats, because the Republicans are in power now, and if they're not liking either political party, it certainly means that the Democrats are not making their case. They're the insurgents. They're the ones who have to explain what they're doing. They're the ones who have to win the support, and they're not. And I think that lack of progress is very important.
That is interesting. Dick Morris, good to see you. Happy Friday.
Thank you.
Gavin Newsom doing what Gavin Newsom does. Next.
How about radically lowering the income tax rates?
Well, California has tax. I mean, there's 16 states right now. Let's talk about those 16 states.
Your data is like a single domino. The moment it's stolen, it starts a chain reaction that puts the information that guards your assets at risk. 1 in 3 Americans have been a victim of identity theft. Are you willing to risk it?
When I saw zeros on that screen as my bank account balance, I went to immediate panic.
$21,000 just gone. I opened my account and $30,000 is missing. Like $30,000. I have no idea what to do.
If your personal information is stolen, are you prepared to pick up the pieces alone? LifeLock is the leader in identity theft protection and restoration.
Once LifeLock got involved, everything changed.
With LifeLock, if your identity is stolen, they'll step in and fix it so you don't have to, guaranteed. Our highly trained U.S.-based restoration specialists contact institutions, dispute fraudulent charges, close compromised accounts, and even procure legal support far beyond the capabilities of your bank or credit card company.
LifeLock pursued this case
further than I ever would have imagined.
If you call right now, you'll get LifeLock for just $9.99 a month for your first year. And as extra protection, all LifeLock memberships include the $1 Million Protection Package. Our members receive reimbursement for stolen funds and personal expenses, like lost wages, as well as coverage for lawyers and experts up to $3 million in total.
When the bank refused to reimburse my stolen money, the $1 Million Protection Package came through for me.
Our Restoration Guarantee and $1 Million Protection Package are included in all memberships with no additional fees.
I think it's natural to think that you can do this on your own. You can't. You need an expert in your corner.
Call 1-800-360-9220 and use promo code TV35 or go to lifelock.com/TV35 to join today.
I'm Arthur Lee, inventor and CEO of LifeVac, but most importantly, I'm a dad first.
Over 10 years ago, I watched my dad design and build the first LifeVac in our garage. Now, that device has saved thousands of lives.
The LifeVac saved my life in 1-2 seconds.
It's a device that saved my son's life.
A choking accident can happen anywhere. Order your LifeVac now.
Don't wait another minute. A life might depend on it. Go to lifevac.net or call 877-543-3822.
Why are so many dogs dying before their time? In my experience, great health starts with great food. That's why I created Badlands Ranch Superfood Complete. It contains powerful canine superfoods that directly support your dog's digestion, skin and coat, mobility, and so much more.
And it's air dried. That means cooked low and slow, no high heat.
We have thousands of 5-star reviews. And for a limited time, get up to 50% off with our special TV offer. Go to badlandsranch.com/TV. That's badlandsranch.com/TV.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. Gavin Newsom on with Ben Shapiro, trying to completely rebrand as a common sense centrist before he runs for president, despite running the country's worst left-wing hellscape for the past 8 years. Here he was, an answer on the horrific tax burden in his state that's actually making people do what nobody thought was possible, sending people to leave California. Take a listen.
How about radically lowering the income tax rates in the state?
California has tax. I mean, there's 16 states right now. Let's talk about those 16 states.
Why don't we talk about California? That's
I'm going to. They tax their low-wage earners more than California taxes its high-wage earners. Let's talk about those lowering those tax rates in those 16 states. How about the middle class? 40% of the middle class in Texas pay higher taxes than they do in California.
This man has so many political liabilities, but what he does have is a team, a huge team of people that sit around and formulate ways for him to explain away all of the horrible things that he's done to his state and just how awful of a politician he is. He's got a smart-ass answer for every possible thing you can think of. And by the way, the progressive tax, we don't tax people anything. You know where they start the 9.3% state tax rate at, which is high, I think, for a state tax? $72,000 a year. You know what $72,000 a year in California makes you? Broke as hell. 9.3% state income tax there on top of federal and everything else. Yeah. Next up, late night host Seth Meyers reminding us that we still don't know exactly how this guy is a comedian or how he got a job on NBC.
But you heard Trump. His brain is the way it is because he drinks milk. What's the condition of this milk anyway?
We have some milk here. It's been sitting here for 5 days. It's from the original bottle.
Oh, it all makes sense now. I drank this rotten milk and it made my brain do good. Also, what do you mean it came from the original bottle? Does he genuinely not know that milk comes from cows? Does he think it's like whiskey? This milk has been aged in the finest plastic for 47 years.
It reminds us all that there's millions of people in this country that have no personality whatsoever, and they like a little comedy too. And that's what Seth Meyers provides. It's comedy for people that have no personality. Just like him. He's the funniest guy. He's the funniest lame guy you ever met in your life. Trump's funny moment of the day, which is actually funny, is up next.
Total Beets, America's best-selling Beets brand, is available at Walmart. Total Beets blood pressure support soft chews contain a key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. Take control of your health. Head to Walmart and get Total Beets blood pressure support soft chews today.
For pain in multiple spots like here, here, or here, Salonpas patches stick firmly and remove comfortably once your pain is gone. Salonpas, it's good medicine.
The poverty is unimaginable. There are people who are struggling, those who are hungry, forgotten Jews.
Scripture says joy can come in the morning, and you can be the reason.
If you will bless these hurting children of Israel, you will receive God's blessing in return. Your urgent gift today of $25 will help Rush, a survival food box filled with life-saving essentials.
Tens of thousands of elderly Holocaust survivors in the former Soviet Union are living in extreme poverty, hungry, and forgotten. But through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, we can bring them hope.
Eggs. It's my favorite food. May you be blessed.
You say to them, we see you, and we're here to help.
Please don't delay. Call, scan, or go online now.
I'm a martial artist, a skydiver, a pilot, and all of them require your feet to work. Get up in the morning, and it felt like I was standing on marbles on my heel. When I went into the Good Feet store, the fitting was personalized. It was all about me. You put in the arch supports, and your day becomes better, and the sun shines, the unicorns run by, and, you know, it's a good life. I'm Randy, and that's my Good Feet story.
See for yourself with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
Don't kibble your dog.
Oh, hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
But what's wrong with this? It's premium stuff.
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means it's ultra-processed at extremely high temperatures that destroy the nutrients in the food. But at Dr. Marty, we gently freeze-dried premium meats, fruit, and vegetables, locking in their nutrients.
Never kibbled.
You got it, kid, and they're gonna love it.
This new year only, get 50% off for 1 year when you subscribe to the Whole Health System as a preferred customer. Because the best New Year's resolutions are the easiest ones. Go to balanceofnature.com today.
Welcome back. And finally tonight, Trump's funny moment of the day, we've had a lot of these lately, was a shot fired at Dr. Oz at the healthcare roundtable this afternoon. Take a listen.
So we go from a horrible situation on drugs, prescription drugs, to the lowest price anywhere in the world. Is that a correct statement, Oz? Because they're going to blame you. If you want to correct me, you can, but you know you won't be here for long if you do. They'll
You're
say,
correct,
Oz
Mr. President.
has left employment.
Wanted to show you that one, the president back at Mar-a-Lago for the long weekend. And it is a long weekend. And we'll see you back here on Monday. Bob Brooks filling in for Rob Finner. We got Bob, Rob. We got
Rob's, Bob's, Rob.
We need somebody.
Carl. We have a Carl in
there. We do have a Carl.
Too.
Carl helps. Carl and Greg.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Bob.
Good to see you, Rob.
Right.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, folks.